All right, hello and welcome back everyone to the Vays YouTube channel where we are doing full coverage of the Trump attempted assassination. I wasn't really covering this right away because I like to let the initial information filter through, and then from there I start to do my analysis. We have Gary Garrettson here with me, who has lots of expertise on guns. So if we do finish up with the Senate hearings, we can I can try and get his views on everything I've been saying so far up to this point, and a giant glass of water for this. Okay, so we're going straight to screen share. I want to play you guys some clips from the Senate hearings earlier today. I heard every word of the Senate hearings. I was taking notes real quick. Everyone wants to know the price of Bitcoin, of course. This current 4-day candle is doing awesome. My allocation is 100%. It's not even on the chart. I've been too busy today. You'll see it tomorrow morning for the morning price analysis show. I really like this rebound. I was able to capture Bitcoin off this rebound, so it's absolutely great. The weekly chart's looking good. Everything's looking good. The stats on last week's purchases by the ETFs, it was 18,000 Bitcoin purchased, and so far in July, 40,000 Bitcoin has been purchased. This data is up to date. All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Donna Heights, Tone, just wanted to give you a shout out for your coverage on the Trump assassination attempt. Great job. Thank you so much. There is a lot of links in this video description. Make sure you go and check it out. All right. We do have some new information filtering in. I'll probably cover it on another day this week. Some people or some companies are doing analysis of the Patsy's cell phone, and the Patsy cell phone is pinging all over the place, including an FBI office, which is interesting but not surprising that the DC FBI field unit was totally involved in creating the Patsy. In this case, I am not surprised at all by any of it. What I am surprised of, I mean, I was a little surprised in the videos I covered yesterday that there was an FBI agent with a hose hosing down the roof where the Patsy got killed. And that didn't make sense to me. In the picture, I'm like, why is he hosing down the roof? And now, when you look at Twitter today, you have like random people on site walking around the roof and walking around the facilities. Like this site, like if I was at my Pennsylvania cabin, I would be in Butler today, right? It's only like a 2-hour drive from where my cabin is. I would be there, like doing this podcast from the scene of the crime. Like, I can't believe this is not like closed off for like months or the rest of the year. I mean, Gary, have you ever like never in my wildest dreams did I think that within like what 5, 6 days people would be on site, like doing videos. Isn't this insane?
Yeah, yeah, that like this is absolutely nuts. The fact that they're like cleaning everything up so fast, like you should be gathering every bit of evidence that you possibly can. They're just like, sweep this on one under the rug and move on to the next one. Like it's just, I don't know.
Dude, this is crazy. Well, like gang shootings that the government couldn't give two shits about have a longer quarantine zone than this.
I, I don't know. I have no idea what is going on. We live in
Like
clown
I
world.
look, I grew up in New York. I mean, I wasn't that far from like a random shooting where no one even got killed. The thing was rolled off for like a month.
So they have already cleaned up all of the scene. Like there is.
Everything.
Oh,
Everything was
geez.
gone. There was like influencers. Look, they're all hanging out right there in the fields.
Well, at least we live in a day where we have influencers and independent media. I mean, if this was the 50s, 60s, like there's one, maybe two news outlets covering, and that you're not going to get the right story. Like now at least we have people investigating. I mean, we live in a totally different world.
No, this is crazy. And then yeah, so I actually thanks to this video, I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about Google Earth. So I don't know why the last video I didn't have Google Earth on. There is some more information. I've watched a lot of other analysis and videos, and one of the other analysts is saying that he had like some kind of confirmation that there was another sniper team, a third sniper team. So we know there was a sniper team on this roof that could not take the shot because this tree was in the way. The sniper team that took the shot was on this roof, and as Trump was standing right here, this is great with Google Earth. The shooter was right there, right around here. That's why this tree was in the way for the North sniper team, but not the South sniper team. Yet in the Senate hearing, she couldn't even say which sniper took the shot, which is insane. We already know this from YouTube. Now, then there is mixed, like, look how this roof is not even sloped at all. During the Senate hearings, one of the senators was just grilling her on her dumb ass statement that the slope of the roof was too steep. The guy's like, it's the same slope as, what do you call them? Wheelchair ramps.
Yeah, basically. So the one on
Like,
the right is the right is the sniper team, and then the suspect is the left side where you're at now.
so no. The suspect, the patsy was here.
Okay.
He got shot by the sniper team from this roof.
Okay.
Allegedly. Again, I'm actually questioning that at this point, and I'll tell you why I'm questioning it. Because every single expert gun YouTuber that fired the same shot from the same rifle that these sniper teams had literally blew the entire head off.
Yes. Yes. Oh yeah, that
With,
300 Win Mag is what you know that movie American Sniper? That is a very, very popular sniper caliber. They don't just jump to 50s. They're usually using a 300 Win Mag or something very similar. 300 Win Mag is the most popular. So that round and the guns you're talking about. So when you're talking about groupings, the thing that really got me was I watched one of the gun YouTubers, and he's absolutely right. A red dot sight covers the entire target, and the shooter was using a rifle that was good for 3 inches at 100 yards. So that means, and he was over 100 yards. Like that means that he can't he can't take a shot and know exactly where it's going. He's going to be within 4 to 5 inches. Um, and the
I don't know,
three,
but that part was easily debunked that this was not staged and the guy wasn't like even a professional sniper wouldn't be able to hit Trump's ear from that distance.
no,
With a scope, sure, but not with
yes,
what he had.
not a red
Okay,
dot. No.
so real quick, then there were mixed reports that there was another like Secret Service sniper or some kind of sniper team. Might not have been Secret Service. I think there was only one Secret Service sniper team, maybe two. The rest were Pennsylvania sniper team, right? Probably not the local police. I don't think this little town of Butler has their own sniper team, but like the Pennsylvania State Police has a sniper team.
Hmm.
There's reports that there was another sniper team back here, either on this building or on this building. So at least they were smart enough to, have coverage on these buildings. Why in the world they had no coverage on these buildings is beyond belief. Now there's so much talk about a sniper team being in this building and probably in this window. And this window certainly has eyes on the back slope of here. And there have been some chatter and reports that it was these guys that shot the suspect before or after they shot at Trump, in my opinion. But
So
they
how do they not know he's there? Like, that's my question. If these guys are the one that shot him,
they
like they
did know
can't
he
look
was
to the,
there. But I don't think these were the Secret Service snipers, and these were the guys that took the picture of the guy on the rooftop, and they
okay.
sent this picture to the Secret Service team on the ground, and they were grilling her about that part, and like when exactly they did the picture come through the text messages, and she refused to answer the question on any timeline, which is insane. Okay. Now, one more thing, just looking at this Google Earth, why the fuck was there nobody on top of this water tower if the water tower is capable of allowing a person to stand there, right? Like it may be this may not have the right slope to have a person on, but people accidentally, in their videos, they like some people were questioning, well, why was someone having their cell phone over the tower? They didn't have their cell phone over the tower. They had their cell phone on Trump. From here, the tower just happened to be in the background. And that's when people noticed that there was a shadowy figure on top of it. If people were actually had their cameras on top of the tower, we probably would have had better, clear images, whether there was someone on the tower or not. But if it's possible to be on top of this tower, how in the world was there no one from the Secret Service or law enforcement on top of this tower? It's
My,
literally the tallest building in any vicinity.
my question is, why are they allowing him to have this many angles on him in the first place? Like, why are you setting
Again,
up
that's
with
dude.
multiple vantage points?
The amount of stupidity is absolutely insane. Anyway, no one is talking about the possibility of a shooter from the Butler Gymnasium other than Redacted. People did say, I have to spin this somehow, which I'm not sure how. How do I spin this? People mentioned that there was no straight line of a shot from this building because the window is kind of here without avoiding all these trees. Maybe I can spin it. Oh, there it is. I can use my hands. I have a touch screen. So if we do it this way, right? If we do it like this, and Trump is standing right here, there may not be a clear line of sight from this window, but there is certainly a clear line of sight from this side of that building. You can clearly see this is nothing, absolutely nothing in the way. This is not a tall enough tree. There is a clear line of sight from this building here. I can't believe even that building wasn't part of the perimeter. Absolutely insane, absolutely insane. But let's get to the hearings.
Yeah, tell
set
me
it
what's
up.
going on with the hearings.
Yeah, let's go to the hearings. So I actually did the work of like there's no timestamps here. So who does the timestamps for this 5-hour video? Well, guess what? Tone Vays does the fucking timestamps for this
They should
for
be paying
C-SPAN,
you.
right?
That is awesome.
To show you how shadow banned I am. Just to show you how shadow banned I am.
I have to look and see if I can see that. If I can see
Just to show
your
you how shadow banned I am. I literally did the timestamps and my comment has 4 likes, and there's comments with 100 likes and 18 replies.
oh my gosh. Yeah, nobody's seeing it.
Right.
I kind of want to go and see if I can find that.
And I have a checked account. I'm like the only verified account that even commented. So I'm like the blue check mark back when they were hard to get. You can't just get a random verified account on YouTube. Like you need like 100,000 subscribers to get this. I didn't do all the timestamps. I probably could have. I have all the notes, but I just did the timestamps of the more interesting people, even though the Democrats were a fucking clown show. Holy shit. This was supposed to be bipartisan. You have no idea. Here's the average Democrat. I'm going to start with the Democrats first. Here's the average Democrat drilling. Let me turn on computer audio, share computer audio. Here's what the average Democrat sound like. And guys, I'm sorry, I do have to speed this up. I know people watch me on faster speed and they complain when I play videos in faster speed. Sorry guys, I can't have this video go 8 hours and play this at normal speed. I have to speed it up a little bit. Let me find you a Democrat. This is I refer to this is what an average Democrat sounds like. So the whole hearing was you know what? I'll play the Democrats later. It's just a fucking clown show. So it started with Jim Jordan. I really like Jim Jordan. He didn't get to the bottom of much, but I just like him a lot. He was the guy that was front and center on the COVID bullshit. So I am gonna play him first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, were you guessing or lying? The day after President.
Whoa. Why isn't it going to the timestamp?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, were you guessing or lying? The day after President.
What's going on here? Did I not get the timestamp right? First one I click.
Trump is shot. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote.
Were you
Here we go.
timestamping live?
No, I had timestamped after.
Okay.
I put you can't timestamp live. Because the thing starts later. What the fuck is happening here? Am I having internet issues again?
I don't think you are.
Like, these things aren't playing.
You've received the maximum amount of plays for this for today, Tom.
Is that what it says?
No, I'm sorry. I'm just messing with you.
I wouldn't be surprised. All right, hold on. Let me close this. Let me pause that. I don't know what's happening here, guys. Let's try this again. I know I have a lot of tabs open, but shouldn't stop a YouTube video. I've been watching this all fucking day. It's not like
your
that.
operational lapses, your resource management, and poor judgment.
Hearing is for the American people who are seeking answers about the attempted assassination of.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, were you guessing or lying? The day after President Trump is shot, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said, quote, the assertion that a member of the former president's security team requested additional security resources that the U.S. Secret Service or the Department of Homeland Security rebuffed is absolutely false. The next day, Secretary Mayorkas said that is an unequivocally false assertion. We had not received any request for additional security measures that were rebuffed. But 5 days later, the Washington Post said this: top officials repeatedly rejected requests from.
Guys, I have no idea why.
Can you try this, tone? So go to your settings on that video.
Let me
change. Oh wow, it's too low already. Wow, that should be.
I'm on like the lowest quality I can get.
Can you refresh the page?
I did like 3 times already.
Really?
Yeah.
Donald Trump security detail for more personnel. The next day, the New York Times said this: Mr. Guglielmi acknowledged that the Secret Service had turned down some requests for additional federal security assets for Mr. Trump's detail. So which is it? Because both statements can't be true. Were you guessing or lying when you said you didn't turn down requests from President Trump's detail?
Neither, sir, and I appreciate the question.
Well, what were you doing? Because those statements don't jive.
So what I can tell you is that for the event in Butler, there were no requests that were denied. As far as requests...
Well, maybe they got tired of asking. Maybe you turned them down so darn much, they said, not worth asking. How many times did you turn them down ahead of that?
I think that it is important to distinguish between what some people may view as a denial of an asset or a request.
Well, is Mr. Guglielmi your spokesperson? He said he acknowledged the Secret Service had turned down some requests. I'm asking how many?
A denial of a request does not equal a vulnerability.
Well, tell me what it is.
There are a number of ways that threats and risks can be mitigated with
Let me try higher.
with a number of different assets, whether that be through personnel, whether
we have
that
somebody
be
saying like take it to high resolution and then take it back.
Tell the committee which it was. They asked for additional help in some form or another. You told them no. How many times did you tell them no, and what'd you tell them no to?
Again, I cannot speak to specific incidents, but I can tell you in general terms, the Secret Service is judicious with their resources based on...
What does some requests mean? How many times? Some indicate requests is plural. So more than once they asked for additional help and you turned them down. What they asked for and how many times did you turn them down? Pretty basic questions.
So again, without having all of the details in front of me, sir, what I can tell you is that there are times.
You didn't get briefed on how many times you turned down the Trump detail when they asked for additional help?
I'm sorry.
You didn't get briefed on that before you came to this hearing, knowing you were going to get asked that question?
What I can tell you is that in generic terms, when details make a request, there are times that there are alternate ways to cover off on that threat or that risk.
But that's not what he said. He said they were denied certain requests, some requests. This is your spokesperson, not me talking. This is the Secret Service talking. And what a change from absolutely false, unequivocally false to, oh, by the way, there were some times where we didn't give them what they wanted. That's a huge change in 5 days. And the fact that you can't answer how many times you did that, that's pretty darn frustrating, not just for me, but for the country.
I hear your frustration.
Let me ask you this. Were any of those requests denied to President Trump's detail after you knew about the Iranian threat?
Guys, I need to try something because I'm getting annoyed by this. I'm literally going to crash all my Google. I know I have a lot of tabs open, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to...
You have a different browser?
Yeah.
You can, I mean, you could even open it in like Edge and just see if it's, I think it's a really long video. So if we're jumping around, it has to reload so much. And also
wasn't a problem when I was putting the timestamps in.
And who knows, is there a lot of people watching this right now and the servers are just slammed with, there's a lot of people basically saying, there's a couple guys in chat that have gone and looked for your comment. It doesn't exist.
Can't find it, right? I know you can't find it because I know it would have more than 4 thumbs up. It exists. I mean, I just refreshed the page. I see it, but nobody else seems to. Yeah, I am shadow banned like you wouldn't believe. This is why almost nobody sees my channel. Okay, let me open. I have Brave. Oh, I have a Brave browser. Let me get the link. Let's see. I'll switch screen share. Let's see if it works better.
Your operational lapses, your
I need to get an actual streaming setup.
it is just maddening to me that you're not taking this job seriously. Many people here have called for your resignation. I've introduced.
I'm not going to find my own comment, right? Because I'm not logged in as me, right?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Right. So if I can't find it, I don't have the timestamps.
Oh, jeez.
This is how insane this is.
Can we pull them up and wherever you want to go, just go manually? That would be the best way to do it.
No, that's annoying. That's it. That's the end of the comments. I don't see myself. I think I'd spot my own picture if I could. Ain't this fucked up?
This is the world we live in. Freedom of speech has been severely under attack the last 15 years.
Like, how the hell does that happen? So now I'm back to the other problem. Right? I don't want to sign into Google on this on the Brave browser. That makes no sense. So now we're back to let me crash all my Google tabs and come back. It's not gonna end the stream because it's going through Zoom. Jeez. Okay.
So can I read a comment? Surviving Palawan says the blood, the pick of the bullet, the iconic picture, the angles, the act of good, beautiful psyop that even got most of us who are awake, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try this again. Should be working now. I'm going to skip Jim Jordan. We're going to go right into the more interesting stuff. I marked them as must watch. I mean, everything here that I timestamped is worth watching, but we don't have that kind of time. So we're going to go to the must watch stuff.
I gotta look myself. I need the link to the video. Because I want to know if, because I'm a subscriber, like you used to be shadow banned for me, but you're not necessarily shadow banned anymore. So I want to know if I can see your comment and your timestamps.
I don't know, but as long as I can see them, we can use them, right? So that's all I really needed them for. It would have been nice for other people to see my comment, but clearly it's there for me, but not for anyone else.
Well, they don't want you to know that nobody else can see your comment. That would be. Oh, geez.
Except now there's a live stream that literally proves that the comment's not there because I logged in on a Brave browser where I'm not logged into my Google as me, and it's not there. Okay, anyway, let's go through this because we are limited on time.
Are you just going back to Chrome?
Hey Gary, if you're talking over it, I actually cannot hear you. So that's why I have to pause the.
I can't hear it. So if you are playing it, I can't hear it.
I am playing it. Everyone else should be able to hear it.
Is anybody else? Can they hear it in chat?
Guys, can you confirm that you can hear it? I can't send the timestamps here, guys. Even I'm limited to like 30 characters or something, or whatever limit that is.
Yeah, I don't think
Nobody
they can
can-
hear it.
Oh, nobody can hear this?
So it might be something to do with the way your sound is forwarded through.
Oh, no,
Chrome.
maybe it's because I restarted the thing. Hold on. Jesus. Oh, you know what it is? I'm not sharing screen. Why didn't you tell me?
I'm looking at comments, so I apologize.
Oh, my bad. This is why we have a second person. Okay, let's try this again. I am sharing screen. I am sharing sound. Now it should work. Let's go
Okay.
back to here. Actually, I need the timestamp. Okay, now we're in business.
There was only one counter sniper who took
Good.
one shot. Is that,
We had multiple counter sniper teams
yeah,
available
on the
that day.
premises, but is only one took one shot? Is that correct, or only one?
Correct.
Okay. How many spent shell casings were found on the roof?
Again, I would have to defer you to the FBI's criminal investigation.
Okay. Word is that the car was rigged with explosives.
Again, sir, I'd have to defer you to the
FBI.
FBI's investigation.
Okay. You're not curious about? You don't communicate with them? No. Okay. CNN reported that the Secret Service did not sweep the building the shooter was used to shoot President Trump and other attendees. Is that true or false?
So we are conducting a mission insurance investigation and will depend on the information that we obtain from our investigations.
Okay. The Secret Service knew there was a suspicious person anywhere from 8 minutes before President walked on stage to 30 to 60 minutes. We have different reports. Was President Trump or his team notified of the threat?
I think there's a difference and a distinction between suspicious
Suspicious person.
and threat.
Yeah.
So we are going back and looking at communications to know when the information about a suspicious person was passed to Secret Service personnel.
Okay, but was President Trump or his team notified?
Again, we are going back and looking to make sure that we have the exact information of when those notifications were made and who those notifications were made to.
Okay. I think it's troubling for a lot of us that the number one question everyone in America is wondering is why was the roof left open? And after 9 days, we should at least maybe have a little bit of that information. And when you come to this committee hearing and you don't have anything to say about that, it's very, very troubling. Did you review the security plan for this event?
I personally do not review security plans for events that take place across the country.
Any of them?
We have a number of events that
Who's
take
the
place.
top level official who reviews the security plans?
There's a number of people that review security plans.
Who's
as they
ultimately
unfold.
responsible for signing off on a security plan?
It's a conjunction of personnel. There are people on the ground, there are supervisors on the detail, there are people at headquarters.
So there's not one person who says, okay, this is good, it's copacetic, we're going for it?
I think much in the way that we build our security plans, where they're
No doubt
multi-layered,
there's teams working different aspects of it, but ultimately, isn't there an individual who signs off on the plan?
much like how we design our security plans, they're multi-layered, there are multiple layers.
So there's
of
no
people.
accountability?
There is accountability, sir.
This is whether it's the FBI or Fauci or anything, it's time after time after time, these multiple layers of accountability turn into layers of plausible deniability, and agency after agency after agency. That's got to be fixed, because you keep coming here and expecting, yes, you're saying I'm responsible, but and you're accountable for it, but then there's nothing. What do you mean by that? I mean, you're saying you're going to keep your job, right?
I assure you, sir, that if we determine through the course of our investigation that someone or people need to be held accountable, we will do so.
What level of, if President Biden, God forbid, had been shot and killed, would you think that was worthy of resignation?
I would do the same thing that I'm doing here, where I would want to make sure that we are conducting an investigation, that there is continuity in that investigation, and that we could find the
You do
answers
not
to
think
what
the
happened.
assassination of somebody under your details worthy of resignation?
I think that this event was tragic and deserves answers.
The thing that you've said so far is that you want to make sure that this never happens again. The thing is, everyone in America knows that's not the job description that you're tasked with. The job description you're tasked with is to make sure it never happens, period. One of your goals in the strategic plan is to champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. You've accomplished the accessibility part. What standards, do you keep the same standards for all applicants and all, or does every Secret Service agent meet the same qualifications, or do you have different standards for different people?
Yes, sir. Everyone who moves through the application process has to meet the same standards to become a special agent.
Okay. The trouble I think we're having with right now, so far, you gave a lame excuse for sloped roof. You said that local law enforcement's job was to cover up the building before backtracking on that. We were told that President Trump's team did not ask for security before you backtracked on that. You haven't provided the audio recording that this committee, the chairman, requested that was due Thursday. You didn't give us an advance copy of your opening statement, but yet there was reporting on it somewhere else. There seems to be more information from YouTube videos than you're able to provide for us, and it begs the question to anyone, you're in charge of the investigation of your own failure. So how is anybody in America supposed to be able to trust the results of that investigation as being anything transparent and genuine?
That's the last question, but please feel free to answer the question, Director.
Sir, I've been a Secret Service agent for nearly 30 years. I've led with
All right, so how insane is this? And this isn't even the best part.
Yeah, this is gold. I did not know this was going on today.
Oh yeah, no, you have no idea. So here, oh, you know what? I don't have this as a must watch, but it was actually, I mean, like some Democrats, I mean, the Democrats use their entire time to demonize guns, but even AOC was, do we have that? Okay, here we go. This one.
Here and say you ought to resign, but I am going to say that you have not given us confidence that you have the ability to understand what happened.
Why are they
Out of
starting
459?
3 seconds late?
I just need an explanation. What do you think as the director there?
I think that
And that's the last question, but please answer Mr. Infobay's question.
I think that this is a challenging job. I think that it's a challenging environment to be in law enforcement, and we do have a no-fail mission, and our folks are tasked with that every day, 365 days of the year. But I can tell you I've also taken a number of measures since I've been the director to recruit and retain and stem the tide of attrition in our agency, which will hopefully alleviate some of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes Mr. Sessions from Texas.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I join in the calls of all of our members to say thank you for doing this hearing on a bipartisan basis. Director, I'm not going to sit here and say you ought to resign, but I am going to say that you have not given us confidence that you have the ability to understand what happened, to take the responsibility in terms of understanding. You've spent a number of years. How many years do you say you've been with the agency?
29.
Well, I spent 16 years with AT&T, moved 7 times with them, and had a really good feel about their operations, how they worked, what was acceptable, who was responsible. And I've heard you say today numbers of times, well, you've got to wait. Well, you've got to wait. Wait for the final report. When is the final going to happen? I mean, how long do we have to wait before you can give us credible answers? You've been there 28 years. You've had a few days to be able to draw your own analysis of this. You should understand the entire process. You talked about being on the team, perhaps in Georgia. You have talked about your experience in this. You've talked about the professional nature of the agency. That I don't doubt. But the director, just like it was when I ran my operations at AT&T, was responsible for making sure they worked. And in business, it either works or it doesn't work. There's no in between. It either works or it does not work. And your job as the, in essence, administrator, the director, is to make sure it looks right and works. And I've not heard you say one thing about my analysis is, I have asked these questions. It's always, I've got to sit back and wait for someone else to decide that. So I'm going to ask you a question that maybe you can answer. Have any employees been disciplined for their role in Butler, PA incident?
No, sir, not at this time. I am asking those questions.
So no employee has been disciplined and no employee has been placed in any position that would place their job in jeopardy nor their standing in the agency.
We are still in the process of.
That's not what I asked. You're the person that runs the place. You're the person that knows right from wrong, good from bad. You've had a number of days, and now you come before this committee knowing you're going to be before us, and you've got to slough it off to someone else. Do you see where there was something that went wrong as a professional at an agency with 28 years, or do you have to count on someone else to give you the final report?
I see that something went wrong, and I've acknowledged that something went wrong.
Then what went wrong? Was the special agent in charge not doing their job? Was the shooter given extra time? Was the sniper doing their job? I mean, these are things that people who've been around for 28 years can analyze quickly. I watched it live on TV, and then within minutes saw a number of facts and factors that would have and should have been known by people who were there. You've got 28 years. You're showing up here telling us and the American public, well, I've got to wait for the final answer. What is your evaluation?
I'm asking those same questions.
Well, no, you're before the committee. Tell us what went wrong. A special agent in charge, the person who was there. Tell us, and don't try and play a shell game with us. Do you have the ability to effectively, as the director of this agency, to understand what went wrong and at least tell us, I do or don't know what I'm doing? And we come away with, and I'm not asking for you to resign. I'm asking for you, if you've got this experience, then you should be able to say to us, we know what we did wrong. It was a failure in our system, and we're immediately making these corrections. That's why you're having a difficult time with this group of members of Congress, because we saw it too. We've seen the things, but you are the 28-year expert. You are the person that, and only you, that can make the changes. And I hear you say, well, I've got to wait for a final report before I, at 28 years experience. That is why we think what you're doing, the answers you're giving us are not correct, and you are not using your professional expertise. Mr. Chairman, I will allow her to respond.
I am asking those same questions, sir, and I assure you, when I have a full and complete report of exactly what happened, there will be accountability, and we will make changes.
Before I recognize the question, just out of curiosity, Director, it's been 9 days. Every American wants these questions answered. Do you have a ballpark estimate of when what Mr. Sessions asked you would be able to answer?
So I can tell you on our mission assurance internal investigation, we are targeting to have that completed within 60 days. There's also an external investigation that is going to be taking place. There are a number of Office of Inspector General investigations as well, and we are working in concert. And then, of course, there's the Department of Justice, FBI criminal investigation.
Chair recognizes Ms. Ocasio-Cortez from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Our favorite AOC, watch what happens. Like, again, she was probably going to have her speech about gun violence and why guns should be banned, like every other Democrat in this room. But check this out.
Director Cheatle, respectfully, what you had just laid out about 60 days. We are currently in the midst of an especially concentrated presidential campaign in the moment. That is also paired with, of course, elections happening across the country. They're happening in about 100 days. So the notion of a report coming out in 60 days when the threat environment is so high in the United States, irrespective of party, is not acceptable. And I think it's very important to understand that. This is not theater. This is not about jockeying. This is about the safety of some of the most highly targeted and valued targets internationally and domestically in the United States of America. So the idea that a report will be finalized in 60 days, let alone prior to any actionable decisions that would be made, is simply not acceptable. It has been 10 days since an assassination attempt on a former president of the United States, regardless of party. There need to be answers. Again, this party, this committee, this is not a moment of theater. We have to make policy decisions, and we have to make them now. We do. And that may be and that may require legislation. That may require policy that.
All right, that's enough for AOC. We don't have that much time. Briggs, this was cool.
I hope you can highlight and illuminate what some of those are in the event of other members questioning as well.
Very good. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I request unanimous consent for that photo to go into the official record.
Without objection to ordered.
Thank you, Director. Your agency has a no-fail mission, and on Saturday, July 13th, your agency spectacularly failed. The failure resulted in the death of Corey Comprador and serious injury to two other rally attendees, David Dutch and James Copenhaver, besides the injuries to President Trump. It is unfathomable that a 20-year-old on the radar of Secret Service and local law enforcement before President Trump went on stage was able to climb onto the roof of a building with a rifle and fire off multiple rounds before he was neutralized. Was Mr. Crooks acting alone?
Again, I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation.
Was he just a lone gunman?
I would have to refer you to the FBI's investigation for motive.
What did the Technical Services Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
Those are questions that we are asking, and we're.
You're sitting here today. Come on, Director. Everybody said this. You knew you were going to be asked that question because it's been asked multiple times. So this is an easy one. What did they determine was going to be the event perimeter? So you should know that. I mean, this is not. You got to wait till someone else tells me. What was it?
Again, I don't want to speak to specifics of the event.
Okay, this is a specific.
I understand.
This is a specific that you ought to know. As someone who said the buck stops with me, I'm going to stay in my job. I'm going to give the answers to the American people, and I know what happened. Except for you're not going to tell us. You're not going to tell the American people. And you yourself said in an interview that foments this notion of conspiracy theories. Guess what? When you sit here and repeatedly tell people, hey, I have to wait, as it frustrated everybody on this committee, guess what? It undermines your credibility and whether you're really going to get to it. So I'm going to ask you again, what did the Technical Service Division determine was going to be the event perimeter?
We are still gathering reports. We are interviewing individuals.
You know what it is, though. No, you're just not going to tell us, right?
When I have those details, I will most certainly share those.
Was the gun already on the roof, or did the shooter carry the gun up with him?
I do not have that information at this time.
Well, when was the last sweep of that roof done prior to the rally?
I do not have that information at this time.
So how many holds, I mean, so most of us here have been in events, and Secret Service has been there, there's been security, and I can't tell you how many times we've said there's going to be a security hold right here. So we're going to wait, and we wait to 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. And yet we're hearing from you, apparently, that there were no holds in place. So ever instituted here with President Trump's going on stage. And you said, and this is, I think, connected with this, you said they hadn't adjudicated the shooter to be a threat. He was adjudicated to be a suspicious person, even though we got some dynamic video that Mr. Krishnamurthy put on the video for us. So I guess my question for you is, and I think you answered this, I just want to see if you're consistent with what you said about an hour and a half ago. What do you do if a suspicious person is identified by the agency?
So at a number of our events, it is not unusual.
I know it's not unusual. What do you do?
Those individuals that are identified as suspicious, we will send teams out
Was a team sent out here then?
There were teams that were sent to identify and interview that individual.
They were sent to interview the individual who's scampered up in camo on top of a roof within 130 yards of his target. And did your team get there? When did your team get there to conduct that interview?
I don't have the details on the timeline. It is my
So if they did send a team and they're going to interview him, and you described that earlier as an investigation, why didn't they put a security hold on President Trump going on stage at that rally?
At a number of our protective sites, there are suspicious individuals that are identified all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that they constitute a threat.
Of course not. But here you got a guy scampering up the side of a building on top of a roof. It's identified to you, and you said you sent a team there, and you can't answer that. And this gets to one of my finer points, Mr. Chairman, if I can make it, and that is we can have these kind of interview sessions, 5 minutes. Everybody gets a kiss of the pig, 5 minutes, and she gets to stonewall us, not deliver answers. So we say, okay, we're going to put together a congressional committee, a blue ribbon committee. Same crap will happen. I am calling, and I'll support that, but I will tell you this, I am calling on the Speaker to give us and put together a truly independent commission of qualified former Secret Service agents, presidential and VIP protective services people who can actually conduct this kind of investigation and give us real answers, because I don't think you're going to give us those answers. You should have come today ready to give us answers. I call upon you to resign today. And I also would say, I've got a bunch of UC requests if I can go ahead.
Yeah, so actually this whole thing started off real slow and real shitty, but it really picks up around this time. And so any thoughts so far, since you're seeing this for the first time, Gary? Gary, I don't hear you.
I'm sorry, I had myself muted. This is straight insanity. Like the whole like I'm all about pleading the fifth, but like the whole I just don't I can't answer your question. The amount of that is
it gets worse. It gets worse. Let's move on.
Hey, Director, we're pretty close to the halfway point during this. You answered more questions with an ABC reporter than you have with members of Congress. We have a lot more questions. The American people are demanding that we get answers to those questions, and that's what the purpose of this hearing is today. So I'm sure a lot of the questions that have already been asked are going to be asked again, and hopefully we can get some answers to those questions. I strongly implore you to answer those questions. You're here with a subpoena, and we expect you to answer the questions. Chair now recognizes Ms. Mace from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Cheatle, the American people are watching, and they're wondering if there are any questions you can answer honestly today. So, Director Cheatle, I have a series of questions, very specific questions. I want very specific answers. Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been.
Yes or no? You didn't want to answer the question. We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection, ordered.
Okay. Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
Chairman, I want to.
Come on.
We have to maintain decorum in this committee, no matter how
have you provided
upset we
any
get.
and all memos to this committee that we've asked you on July 15th? Have you provided all memorandums within the Secret Service?
I would have to get back to you on
that. That is a no. You are being dishonest or lying. You're being dishonest here with this committee. These are important questions that the American people want answers to, and you're just dodging and talking around it in generalities. And we had to subpoena you to be here, and you won't even answer the questions. We've asked you repeatedly to answer our questions. This isn't hard. These are not hard questions. Have you provided us all communications from the Secret Service related to that day and that rally? Have you provided this committee? We've asked for this information on July 15th. Have you provided any of this information that this committee has asked of the Secret Service? Any of it?
I'll have to get back to you.
Have you even read this letter that we sent you? Did you even read this?
Yes.
Okay. And you have said you don't know, you have no idea. The answer is no. We haven't gotten a single document or piece of information or data from you or your agency in related to the rally that we have asked you for. So, was this attempted assassination of Donald Trump a failure of training or execution or both?
I think that those are answers that we need to
training, execution, or both. Which one?
I think those are answers.
All right. How many Secret Service personnel have lost their jobs due to this colossal failure?
At this time, none.
How many Secret Service personnel have been required to take a refresher course on how not to let people shoot Donald Trump?
Our personnel are currently operational. We are examining the facts of this investigation, and we will make the changes necessary.
What time did law enforcement become aware that there was an individual on the roof with a clear line of sight to President Trump?
I am still verifying timelines.
Of course. 9 days in, you have no answers. How many minutes went by between the time law enforcement saw and took photos of crooks and the shooting? How many minutes?
I am still verifying
57 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. Before I recognize Ms. Stansberry, I believe...
She's great. I'm not familiar with her work, but I think Gary's on the phone.
I'm good. Sorry.
I'm not familiar with her work, but whoever she is, she's one of my new favorites now. South Carolina, Nancy Mace, Mace or Macy, I'm not sure. And by the way, everyone that you're listening to so far has been a Republican. I'm going to play a Democrat later, okay? We're going to stick to the good stuff. Dude, that was fire right there.
Yeah, that was pretty intense.
Okay, the next guy. So they alternate Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. This is one of the few Democrats that actually asked decent question. But maybe we'll get to him. Yeah, he's from Florida. Yeah, this is one of the few Democrats. It's not on my must-watch list. Let's stick to the must-watch list. Though that Democrat was actually decent. No, I'll play him. Let's see how this goes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And obviously, I want to start by stressing that political violence is always unacceptable and acknowledging that this is still an ongoing investigation. But oversight hearings like this are essential components of an investigation, and I want to thank the Chair for pulling this together. Madam Director, I appreciate you for being here. The events of July 13th raised serious questions about the efficacy and thoroughness of the security protocols in place. The gravity of the fact that an unsophisticated gunman was able to secure his perch and take a shot at a former president despite multiple layers of security and intelligence are not lost on me. Before I came to Congress, I used to work at Vance for a major political candidate and have interacted with many different law enforcement agencies on large political events like the one that just happened. How many times was the Secret Service alerted about a suspicious person at the July 13th campaign event prior to the first shot being shot?
I don't have an exact number to share with you today, but from what I've been able to discern, somewhere between 2 and 5 times there was some sort of communication about a suspicious individual.
To the Secret Service specifically? According to reports, the shooter was photographed twice by security officers prior to the shooting. A police officer saw the shooter on the ground and reported him with a photograph as a suspicious person. Multiple local law enforcement officers identified the shooter, radioed that he was acting suspiciously near the event's magnetometers. A local law enforcement tactical team saw the shooter on a roof and notified other security services and also photographed him. One police officer who photographed the shooter saw him scoping out the roof and carrying a rangefinder. My question is, and you've answered this, but why, or you haven't answered this, why wasn't the event paused right then?
Again, I'm not clear on the timeline of when the Secret Service shift and the counter sniper were notified.
But earlier, Madam Director, earlier you said that the Secret Service would have paused the rally if they identified a threat.
Correct.
So why wasn't it paused?
Because I have to assume that they did not know that there was a threat when they brought the president out on the stage.
I feel like this is a breakdown in communication between local law enforcement, you all, and other actors at the rally. And again, as someone who's worked on these, I understand that there's multiple people with multiple with the ability to make different decisions on the ground. Over the last week, I've spoken with a lot of folks in local law enforcement in my district and across the country that I've worked with before, and other people have brought up concerns around being able to communicate with Secret Service during these big events and having their flags taken seriously. I do believe that if Secret Service believed that there was a legitimate threat, that they would have paused the rally. My concern is before that something was flagged and it wasn't taken as seriously as it should have been taken. So I think this shows an issue with communication.
From Texas.
How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it? Director Cheatle, and your leadership of your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old.
Good question.
Confidence that you could stop a trained professional.
What's up?
That's a really good question.
Oh yeah, no. This guy was one of my favorites. Check this out. No, I don't want to go forward. Okay, here we go.
Who is attending that event and the personnel who are protecting.
So you would say the fact that the rooftop was outside the perimeter is not an excuse for what happened, saying that it was outside the perimeter of the event?
I am not offering that as an excuse.
Okay, thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Fallon from Texas.
How did a 20-year-old loner with a week's notice pick the absolute best location to assassinate President Trump when the entire Secret Service missed it? Director Cheatle, and your leadership, your agency got outsmarted and outmaneuvered by a 20-year-old. How can we have any confidence that you could stop a trained professionals from a nefarious nation state?
Those are absolutely questions that we need to have.
I know the questions, but the fact of the matter is we can't have that confidence. Director, do you have the ability personally, do you have the authority to beef up security of any of your protectees?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So were you also aware there was a credible threat President Trump was facing? He was facing a heightened security threat to a foreign adversary?
Yes.
Okay. So given that there was an increased threat to President Trump's life, was he provided a full security complement akin to what a sitting U.S. president would receive?
He was provided a full complement of security based on the threat assessment that we had.
That's not my question.
And the venue.
My question is, if he'd been the sitting president, would he have had the same security he had on July 13th, or would have been beefed up?
There is a difference between the sitting president.
So your answer is he didn't.
And continuity of government and the responsibility.
So he did not. Okay, there wasn't a CAT team, a full CAT team on site. There wasn't counter surveillance teams on site. But this is the thing. He just said you had the ability to beef up the security. You knew about the threat, and you didn't. And that's as telling as it is chilling. We have satellite images from the Butler Fairgrounds. Have you visited the site?
No, I have not.
9 days and you have not visited the site. You should have been there that night. Did you talk to, that evening, did you talk to the team, the heroes that surrounded the president? Did you call them that night?
They were still operational work.
So that's an answer is no. Did you call them the next day?
President. Yes, I spoke with them.
You called them the very next day, not the day of, or was it 72 hours after?
I don't know the timeline, but I spoke with
Okay,
them
because you're under oath.
immediately
I think it was 72 hours after. You waited 3 days. What is immediate?
Hey guys, they have even this has the gunman on the wrong freaking side of the roof. Are we back to this again? Actually, I didn't see this in my original viewing of this because I was more paying attention and taking note. But even here, again, they have him by that second floor window. That's not where he was. He was here. So what the fuck?
Those sure are questions.
Like someone used to, like this guy is great, but whoever put this graphic together has the gunman in the wrong place again. Crazy. But hey, the rest of it is still good.
Clear is that there are a number of structures that need to be secured. Of these, Director, other than the first, immediate 4, what's the most dangerous site that should have been secured? Because security 101, you got to mitigate the high ground.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what the next most dangerous site? What was the closest structure to the president, other than the 4 immediate ones that you had your counter sniper teams on?
There are a number of structures around that event site.
You know who the shooter knew? The shooter has visited the site 2 more times than you have, and he had a drone, and he picked the AGR building. So you said, do you remember in an ABC interview you did that you didn't have people on the roof of the AGR building because you were worried about safety because of the slope?
I recall that statement.
Okay. Does the Secret Service have a written policy you can share with us about slope roofs?
No.
Okay. So why'd you act like there was one? Because isn't your practice to comment on enormous events of enormous national implications when you're ignorant of the facts? That's rhetorical. So here's the thing with the slopes. You go all up to like 1812, you can go to a 112, which is about as flat as you can get without it being completely flat.
And you're saying that there was a danger, safety concern there. But the problem is, Director, you put your counter snipers on a 312 roof, which is steeper than the 112. And by the way, the 112 is ADA compliant. You can build a ramp for a wheelchair on a 112 roof. So these are nothing but pathetic excuses, and they make no sense, and they're a bunch of cow dung. All the law enforcement I've spoken with over the last 9 days are amazed that the AGR rooftop was not secure. And you want to know why? Because it's dangerous. I have never had any long gun training in my life. I own an AR-15, and last time I shot it one time my whole life. It was 6 years ago. That is until Saturday, where we recreated the events in Savoy, Texas. We recreated what happened in Butler. I was lying prone on a slope roof at 130 yards at 6:30 at night. And I knew he had a scope, but I didn't know what kind, red dot or magnified. So I shot 8 rounds from both. You know what the result was? 15 out of 16 kill shots. And the one I missed would have hit the president's ear. That's a 94% success rate. And that shooter was a better shot than me. It is a miracle President Trump wasn't killed. Corey, compared Tory's life is over because that damn shooter made it on the roof. And it wasn't the roof that was dangerous. It was a nut job on top of the roof. You know what else is dangerous? I believe your horrifying ineptitude and your lack of skilled leadership is a disgrace. Your obfuscating today is shameful. And you should be fired immediately and go back to Garden Doritos. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
This hearing was awesome. You're with me, Gary?
I'm with you. I'm in the comments too. So yeah, I'm with you. Definitely.
So
this is
that
crazy.
senator, I mean, if you believe him, he's firing his AR for like the second time, and he was able to hit him in the head every single time from that distance.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, my wife has shot an AR-15 probably 2 or 3 times, and like, she's like, I don't want to shoot anymore. I'm like, I don't think you have to. You know, like it's not hard, especially with the right equipment. The red dot he's using had no magnification whatsoever. So like I said, like the dot was the target. So you don't know where you're hitting.
Right. So he shot like this one with the scope and this one with the red dot. And the one with the scope, he hit them all. The one with the red dot, he said he missed one and he might have hit his ear if it was actually a target. But the difference is this is a static target. The real target's moving around, right?
Yes, you have to, like the shot has to be made where you know the target is going to be, not where the target is. Like, so it's a totally different environment.
Right. But the first shot is still, he's still standing there on a podium. Anyway, so let's so I want to play a few more of these because they were just great. That was Fallon. So here's the one that came up right after him. Well, not right after him, so I haven't right after. There's a Democrat in between. I skipped the Democrats. It was just embarrassing.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, real quick, at what time was Secret Service aware of the active threat against President Trump?
I really like this guy. I've heard him in other Senate hearings. He's great.
Director, what time?
So the Secret Service was aware that there was an individual who had been identified as suspicious, and that individual was attempting to be tracked down.
At what time?
I don't have a specific timeline other than to...
Director, it's been 9 days.
At
what time?
I want to make sure that I give you factual information, sir.
Director, have you talked to the agents on the ground that day?
Yes, I have.
You've talked to all of them? Your senior team has talked to every agent that was on the ground that day?
Yes, we have.
Have they all corroborated the same time they identified the shooter or they were made aware of the shooter, either by attendees in the crowd or local police department?
There are a number of reports of when those times were made.
Was it 5 minutes before the first shot rang out?
No.
Generally speaking, was it 10 minutes before the first shot rang out?
No.
Was it 15 minutes before the first shot rang out?
It was less than that time frame when it was identified as a threat.
How many days before the shooting took place did Secret Service actually do their advance work to secure the facility that the rally was going to be held at?
5 days.
In the 5 days prior, when the security advance team did their work, did they identify the rooftop as a potential threat?
Again, I'm pulling those reports and that information.
It's been 9 days, Madam Director. Did they notice a rooftop 150 yards away that was a potential threat? Yes or no?
I am certain that the rooftop was noticed. I am pulling the reports.
What was the security parameters around securing that rooftop? What did they do?
There was overwatch provided for that rooftop.
Did overwatch fail?
I am waiting to hear what the results of the investigation were so that I can identify where the failure was.
Who did you talk to that was on the ground that day that was responsible for overwatch? What are their names?
I'm not going to provide their names in this setting.
Did you talk to the people that were providing overwatch that day?
I've talked to the people that conducted the advance on that day and that were working the shift and were the counter snipers on that day.
So you talked to the counter sniper team, you talked to the people who were providing overwatch that day, and you talked to the advance team, correct?
Yes, sir.
What did they tell you?
We are putting together a comprehensive report so that I can identify exactly where the gaps and the failures.
When the counter sniper team was on the roof and they identified that there was suspicious activity on the roof in question, what was the chain of command's orders around the person on said roof? Because I'm quite sure somebody saw under your organization, the Secret Service, I'm quite sure somebody saw the shooter on the roof. So what was the communication through the chain of command to deal with said person?
What I can tell you is that when the individual was identified by the counter sniper, they took one shot and neutralized that individual.
But that was after the shooter already took a shot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So what you're saying now is that the Secret Service did not see the shooter on the roof until after the shooter took a shot?
I do not have all of those details at this time.
If you don't have those details after 9 days, Director, then what you're telling me is that you guys didn't see it. Is that correct?
I am telling you I don't have all the details of the sequence at this time.
Director, it's been 9 days. Either you have the information or you do not. Is that correct?
We are still in the process of conducting interviews and an investigation.
Some of my colleagues have texted me over the last couple days, bipartisan, about whether you should lose your job. And I've been quiet on that question because I wanted to see what you were going to do today. In my opinion, you do need to be fired immediately. And it is because this is gross incompetence. And the fact that it's been 9 days, and these are simple questions to answer, I'm quite sure if I asked any one of my kids if they got in trouble and I told them to give me the details, I would get more answers from them than I'm getting from you right now. And that's what's frustrating on a bipartisan basis, on a nonpartisan basis. This is a joke. And Director, you're in charge. And that's why you need to go. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I really like that guy.
Yeah, that is a really good analogy. That the little kids would give him a better answer than she's giving right now.
Yeah, I really, really like him. He does a great job in the Senate hearings. Okay, who was that? That was Donalds. Another guy from New York that did a decent job, but of course finished it with "we need to ban guns." Scott Perry asking if Crooks was the only shooter, if he had help, brought up water tower, but we don't have time for everyone, so I can't play everybody. Another Democrat did a decent job, but of course ended his speech with "we need to ban guns." Here's a must watch. This is great.
I recognize Mr. Timmons from South Carolina.
Thank you, Chairman. Dr. Cheatle, we've asked you a lot of questions and haven't really got a lot of straight answers. I have intentionally created a line of questioning that I think that you can't answer. So the first question is, do you agree that the allocation of Secret Service resources should correspond with the risk profile of any given event? A higher degree of risk at one event should get more resources. Is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. And when two events occur at the same time in the same geographic vicinity, that the risk profile of each event should be taken into account, and whichever event is greater risk should receive greater resources.
That is correct.
Okay, so I'm going to go over the Trump event. So this was publicly announced July 3rd, Butler, Pennsylvania. The venue is an outdoor fairground, open air, no existing security. The crowd size was expected to be tens of thousands. It ended up being over 20,000. There were general and specific threats from foreign adversaries. As the chairman of intelligence remarked, Iran has said they want revenge, as well as when President Trump was in office, he made a lot of people mad, terrorists to be included all over the world. And, you know, President Trump is the former president and the future president. So I would say that that is a fairly high-risk event. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, let's conversely. The First Lady had an event at a casino in Pittsburgh, just a few dozen miles away. It was a dinner for the Italian Sons and Daughters of America. It was publicly announced on July 10th. What's interesting is that the casino is actually extremely secure. They already have magnetometers existing prior to this event even being announced. It was in a ballroom. And the size of the crowd, a mere 400. There were no specific threats. There may have been general threats. And the asset is the First Lady. Those seem like there's a huge disparity relative to risk. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Multiple whistleblowers and various media outlets have reported that the Pittsburgh field office of the Secret Service allocated 12 additional post standers to the First Lady's event and 3 additional post standers to the Trump rally. Is that correct?
There were no assets that were diverted from the First
No.
Lady's
This is a very simple question. I'm not asking if anyone was diverted. Did the First Lady's event that was relatively secure, especially compared to Trump's rally, get 12 assets? And did the First Lady's event get 12 assets and Trump's get 3 from the Pittsburgh field office? That's a yes or no. But if you don't know, don't answer. I mean, if you don't know, don't answer.
The number of personnel that were allocated to both of those events were comparable to the risk at both of those events.
Wow, really? So you think that the Pittsburgh casino, 400-person ballroom with ingress egress through probably a very well-guarded parking garage was 4 times more dangerous than a 20,000-person rally in an open field with the former president, future president? You think that that's 4 times more dangerous than casino then?
I didn't say that at all.
Well, they got 4 times the resources from the Pittsburgh field office, who was likely in charge of the final walkthrough for both events. I mean, we've continually highlighted the failures of the Secret Service at the Trump rally. And, you know, you have the former and future president getting shot. You have multiple injuries, 1 fatality. And I would have to think that if we had 9 more post standards, 9 more individuals that have the training and the integration into the Secret Service defense of Trump at that rally, that I have a feeling that Crooks would have had somebody come say hello to him before he fired a bunch of shots. Do you think that's possibly true?
There were significantly more assets and resources available at the former president's event than there were at the First.
Who made the decision to deploy 12 post standers to the casino where the First Lady was having a 400-person dinner, and only 3 people from the Pittsburgh field office to the 20,000-person plus Trump rally? Who made that decision?
There were additional Secret Service resources available at the former President Trump's event.
Who made the decision to deploy 12 to the First Lady's event and 3 to the Trump event?
The allocation of resources is decided based on the availability of personnel and their location and where they are, but there were sufficient resources
What did you just
that
say?
were given to.
Did you just say there were
former
sufficient
presidents.
resources? President Trump got
Present that
shot. Someone got killed. There were not sufficient resources, clearly.
There was
It doesn't take 27 years of experience to know that. And whoever made that decision, it probably wasn't you, needs to be fired. And then you need to resign because this is absolutely unacceptable. You've lost the trust of the American people. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Oh, how'd you like that one?
Yeah, that one is fantastic. Exactly like you're saying that there was adequate resources, but something happened. Like, how was there adequate resources? I'd rather be in the damn casino, honestly, because at least there's cameras and people watching them. And I don't know, man. Like there was too many angles for everything to be covered, from what I'm seeing. But also, how did they not see him on that roof? They knew he was on the roof.
By the way, this woman is a total menace. I've heard her before in other hearings, and I can't believe people like this get elected. But now we're going to move on to Marjorie Taylor Greene. That always does a great job.
Here now recognizes Ms. Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cheatle, I'd like to remind you that you're under oath. The site team has a senior supervisor, an advanced team, a protective intelligence team, a counter sniper element, and detail. Who was the agent in charge? How long has she been the agent in charge? And what is her Secret Service background?
So I'm not going to provide a name.
Why not? You're here to answer our questions.
Forum. I'm not going to provide names of.
You stated in your testimony, you said, I am here today to answer your questions.
That is correct.
Answer the question.
I'm not going to provide names of our personnel.
Why not?
Today.
The American people are demanding these answers from you today, Ms. Cheatle.
I will do the best to provide you accurate information based on the facts that I have at this time.
You're not answering our questions. The advance element coordinates with other intel or law enforcement partners, identifies threats and weaknesses at the sites and movements. We'd like a copy of the advance report. Have you brought it here with you today?
We will comply with the request for the documentation that has been requested.
When will that be, Ms. Cheatle? Because you should have brought it today.
I am certain that our personnel are working on obtaining all of that documentation.
I don't believe you, and neither do the people watching this hearing. You're not doing well, as Mr. Moskowitz informed you. You've been sitting here for over 3 hours, and I have you know the entire country is demanding you resign and demanding that you be fired if you do not resign. Things are not going well for you. You need to answer the questions. Was there a protective intelligence team, and what technical resources were utilized for that event, specifically drone or helicopter assets?
There were a number of technical assets that were deployed for that event, and there was a protective intelligence team that was assigned to that event.
Why was Crooks able to fly a drone over the entire area the day of the rally and the day of his assassination attempt?
To my knowledge, he did not fly the drone over the entire area.
How did he fly a drone over the area, period? Any part of the area?
Again, I would have to go back and check the timeline of when that took place and when the event.
Why didn't you bring the timeline with you today to answer our questions?
I don't have all of the answers on the timelines based on the criminal investigation.
Were you not prepared today to answer our questions?
I am prepared to answer the questions based on the information and wanted to be able to provide.
Do you have a timeline do you have a timeline at all from any of the day?
I have a timeline that does not have specifics.
That's shocking. That is absolutely unacceptable. That means you're a failure at your job. Let's talk about things that are prohibited in Trump rallies. And I've been to a lot of Trump rallies. Backpacks and bags, bicycles, firearms, any type of weapon, or any other item determined to be a potential safety hazard, like a rangefinder would be one. At 5:10, Crooks is first observed by one of the snipers, AGR Sniper 1, at the building. 5:10, President Trump was shot in the face at 6:11 p.m. 5:28, AGR Sniper 1 takes a picture of a bicycle and 2 bags. Those belong to Crooks. 5:32, AGR Sniper 1 spots Crooks looking at his phone and using a rangefinder. 5:55, Butler ESU Command confirms receipt of photos and states they have been relayed on. 6:05 p.m., AGR Sniper 1 later communicates that Crooks is seen moving northeast in direction of Sheets and that Crooks has a backpack. 2 minutes before the shooting, while President Trump has been allowed to take the stage, people see Crooks laying on his stomach in a sniper position on the roof, and they're yelling he has a gun, and they are trying to alert law enforcement and Secret Service. Why was Crooks not shot by the snipers? Why was he allowed to be there?
As soon as the individual was identified as a threat, they were...
No. What do you consider to be a threat? A man with a gun laying in a sniper position, a man that had a backpack, a man that had a bicycle, a man that had a rangefinder. At what point is he determined a threat?
An individual with a backpack is not a threat. An individual with a rangefinder is not a threat.
What about a man laying on a building that has direct line of sight of President Trump with a gun that people are screaming and pointing out? Is that a threat, Ms. Cheatle?
Once that individual was identified, they were neutralized.
No, they were neutralized. Crooks was neutralized after he shot President Trump in the face, Ms. Cheatle. Is he only a threat once he fires the weapon?
As soon as the counter sniper identified that individual, they were able to neutralize them.
How were people in the crowd? Okay, then let's just take it this way. People under your command did not consider him to be a threat, yet people in the crowd knew he had a gun and considered him to be a threat. That means that you are a complete failure as the director of the Secret Service, that people under your command don't perceive a man laying on a roof with direct line to the president with a gun. They don't perceive that to be a threat, yet the people in the crowd do. How is that possible?
That's the last question, but please answer the question, Ms. Director.
I'm not certain at this time how the information from the people in the crowd was relayed to any law enforcement personnel.
No, you knew, that everyone knew. The people there knew that there was a danger. They knew there was a threat to President Trump, and it was allowed to happen. Was there a stand-down order, Ms. Cheatle? Was there a conspiracy to kill President Trump?
Absolutely not.
Then how did this happen? And why are you still sitting here not turning in your letter of resignation?
Last question, but please answer, and then I'll recognize Ms. Presley. Please answer the question.
That is what we are investigating to determine.
We're waiting for your letter. We're waiting for your letter of resignation, and you really need to consider doing that before you leave today.
Chair Michigan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, I want to thank the Secret Service agents, those who work tirelessly to
Marjorie Taylor Greene is pretty good.
protect our presidents, and specifically those
great.
agents who did not hesitate to jump in front of
Whoever she is, she's great. She's on my radar now, too. I'm surprised there's any Republicans in Michigan. That's a pretty, well, clearly not from Detroit.
President Trump. And my heart goes out to the family of the Comptor family and the people at the rally who are still recovering. On the other hand, the Secret Service has a leadership problem, and it falls on you. And although I appreciate your hollow words that the buck stops here, I was actually hoping for some answers. Director Cheatle, you must answer to the American people if you want to stay in charge. It's really, really simple. You want to keep your job, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. The best way to keep your job is to answer the questions, not play this shell game, not sing the Slim Shady song. Wasn't me? I mean, come on. How long did you prepare for this hearing?
I've been preparing for this hearing over the weekend and into last week.
Okay, 5 days? 6 days?
As soon as I was notified.
And how long was that?
About this hearing.
Okay, 4 days?
I began preparing.
4 days, 3 days?
I'm not sure the date that I got the letter asking me to be here.
What are you sure of? Are you sure the color of your hair? Are you sure the color of your suit? I'm just, like, tell the American people, what are you sure of? You don't even know when you started preparing for the hearing? I mean, the biggest hearing of your life, and you have no clue? You can't remember when you started preparing for this hearing? Can you understand why those words seem hollow to the American people who are supposed to entrust their faith in you?
I assure you, the moment I received notification.
But you can't remember. You got a little Alzheimer's, dementia going? I mean, what, you can't remember.
I have several active investigations going on and an operational agency to run.
Okay. All right. But you want to take accountability, right? The buck stops with you, right?
I am taking accountability.
Super. Then let's start with trying to answer some questions. You keep referring to the FBI. When asked how many shell casings were on the roof, you referred to the FBI. When asked if there were explosives in the car, you referred to the FBI. When asked if Crooks was acting alone, you referred to the FBI. See a common theme here? I can go on and on. My question is, who at the FBI should I speak with? Wait for it. Wait for it.
The FBI is responsible for the criminal.
Is there a name?
I'm not certain.
I'm not certain. All right, here we go. I'm not certain. I don't know. Let me ask a different question. Have you been in communication with the FBI?
Yes, I have.
With whom?
I speak with the director and the deputy director.
Okay. And what have they shared with you about this investigation? So I'll give you an opportunity to answer again. Did they share with you how many shell casings were on the roof?
They have shared with me the...
Did they share with you how many shell casings were on the roof?
Yes.
Okay. How many were there?
I would refer to the FBI for
how many were there?
And their information that they need to share in their investigation.
So they've shared the information with you. You just don't want to share the information with us, correct?
We have concurrent investigations that are going on.
So they have shared this information with you. You know the answer to the question. You just refuse to answer the question from the member of Congress who has subpoenaed you to be here. Is there a different answer to that question?
I was always willing to come here and testify before this oversight hearing.
Beautiful. Then let's do that. Let's for once have your actions match your words. So you've been in communication with the FBI. You know the answers, and you refuse to tell us the answers. So I will ask you again. You know how many shell casings were on that roof. What is the answer to that question?
I think it's pertinent.
What is the answer to that question?
I think it's pertinent to talk to you about the information that the Secret Service has and that the Secret Service knows related.
I'm asking you an answer to the question. If you're supposed to be in charge, if the buck stops with you, how come you can't share the answers? What are you covering up? What are you hiding, my friend?
I'm not covering anything.
Then why can't you answer a simple question?
I would leave it to the criminal investigation to answer questions related to that.
When you talk to the FBI and you ask them how many explosives, well, let me ask you, did you ask them how many explosives were on the roof? Did they answer that question? Or in the car, excuse me. Did they answer that question for you?
Yes.
Yes. So you know the answer to that question that my colleagues have asked you. But again, you refuse to give us the answers. You're playing this wasn't me. Well, I submit to you, if you can't, and it's not a can't, it's a won't. It's not a can't. It's not a I don't know. It's a I choose not to answer the question. Well, let me tell you, Ms. Cheatle, if you're going to lead, you need to lead. If you want to be in charge, then answer the question or step aside and have someone with the courage and the guts to answer to the American people the questions that they deserve answers to. And with that, I yield back.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Boebert from Colorado.
That was great.
I don't understand why there's literally no information whatsoever and how she can't say anything. So nobody is saying anything. That's where we're at.
Right. So she can't even say who at the. She keeps saying, "Talk to the FBI, talk to the FBI." And when they ask her, "Who do we talk to at the FBI?" she's not saying the names, right? And she clearly knows how many shell casings there were from Crooks's firing, and she's not willing to answer the question. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. People are saying to remove this.
Remove.
Okay. Sure. Okay. And right after her, so by this time, there were no more Democrats, right? So it was going Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. But for the last hour, there were only Republicans in the room asking questions. The Democrats had ran out of people that wanted to complain about gun violence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to continue down that vein. You have been here sitting today, Director Cheatle, definitively able to dismiss erroneous information and speculation. However, you are refusing to answer questions that we now know that you have the information for. You are saying that you are wanting to answer questions that the Secret Service has information to. Well, ma'am, you are the Secret Service. You are the director. You have said that you are the best for the job. So I'm going to ask you some questions now knowing that you do have answers from the FBI, whom you have been passing the buck to this entire day. And I'll start with something that, maybe the FBI doesn't know because it has to do with you personally. You said you spoke with President Trump after the assassination attempt. And I want to know, did you apologize to him directly for nearly having President Trump killed?
Yes, I did.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that you recognize that this was your failure. Now, since the assassination attempt, you are under oath, reminding you, have you communicated with anyone at the White House on an encrypted messaging app like Signal? Yes or no?
No, I have not.
Are you willing to surrender your personal phone for analysis?
If I am required to do so.
Okay. I will look into making that request because I would like to see your personal phone to see if you're communicating over encrypted messaging apps. Have you ever turned down enhanced security requests from Donald Trump's detail, his special agent in charge, Sean Curran? Have you ever turned that down?
No, I have not.
Have there been, has your team, has the Secret Service? Maybe not you personally.
I believe, as I mentioned earlier, there are times when requests are made for
and you
assets,
have denied them. They have been denied.
And a denial doesn't
Has the Trump campaign made requests for additional assets that have been denied?
Denial doesn't mean vulnerability.
Have there been additional requests for enhanced security at Mar-a-Lago?
We have made a number of enhancements to.
You confirmed that there were bomb-sniffing dogs that were provided. You failed to confirm if there were aerial security surveillance assets that were provided. So yes or no, was that provided?
At the rally?
At the rally, yes, ma'am.
We had Overwatch provided at the rally.
You've confirmed that the assassin was identified as suspicious 57 minutes prior to the shooting. Was the suspicious individual ever approached by an agent? Was any contact ever made with him?
Not to my knowledge.
Is that the standard protocol for someone who is identified as suspicious?
The protocol would be to locate the individual and
you said that he was located 2 to 5 times approximately?
No, I said that the information was passed potentially somewhere between 2 to 5
times. He was never located by an agent?
To my knowledge, that individual was not located by an agent.
We have dozens of rally goers who have identified him and not one agent on the ground. There are many, many, many agents on the ground. Local law enforcement, Secret Service. No one was able to identify him and have sights on and see him.
That's a good question. So in Overwatch, here's what Overwatch means. The roof did not have any people on it because there was Overwatch of the roof. Overwatch means that there are higher points with people on them that can overwatch what is happening on top of that roof. Now, Overwatch could be people standing at higher positions
it can be drones.
Or drones, right? It could be It could be people, it could be a helicopter, it could be drones. Overwatch refers to the concept of being able to see on top of a place. So that rooftop was classified as being overwatched but obviously it wasn't, or not very well. Hey, I'm gonna skip this. I don't think it gets any more interesting, even though Bobbert is great. Now, Russell Fry, I am running out of time here. I have to actually already late for dinner.
That's correct.
And how long have you been director of the Secret Service?
Just under 2 years.
During your tenure as director under the Secret Service, I know we're here today to talk about the assassination attempt on President Trump, but how many other security lapses have occurred with protectees under your watch?
I don't have a specific number, but there have been some lapses.
There have been other lapses. Was one of them Jake Sullivan?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
Okay, so this guy spends his time going over her other failures over the last 2 years, but we're not going to get into that. You guys can watch that. But the last thing he says is hilarious.
Said that yourself. But the problem in Washington, D.C., it is the only town in America that you can be so bad at your job that you actually get a promotion or don't get fired. You have not been able to answer the number of agents, whether or not requests were denied on additional security, whether or not law enforcement were able to engage before the shooting with the assassin, how he got on the roof, how the rifle got on the roof. You can't tell us how many shots he fired, whether the casings were recovered. You can't tell us anything about his cell phone. You can't tell us whether the rally was supposed to be postponed, given the intelligence that you were receiving. You can't tell us whether the car had a bomb. You can't even tell us his motive. And the American people are incredibly distrustful because it has taken 9 days to even get a scintilla of evidence out of you. Maybe if I was CNN or ABC or NBC, I would have gotten much more thorough and accurate information, but we have not received that in a subpoenaed hearing in front of this Congress. That is why the American people are frustrated, and I echo the bipartisan calls on this committee and all across this country that you should resign, or maybe when the president wakes up from his nap, he can fire you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair now recognizes Ms. Luna from Florida.
Ain't that a great way to finish?
Yeah, that.
Luna is great. Luna is probably in my top 3 favorite congresswomen, or men, for that matter.
Director Cheatle, can you please give me the names of the individuals who are in charge of your conduct for the rally?
I'm not going to release names.
Can you give me the titles? And how many individuals?
No,
Nothing?
we had a full advance team that was responsible for advancing
How many
the
people are
site.
the final approval authority?
There are a number of people
Can you
that
give me a
are
number?
engaged in approving
Can you
the
give me
plan.
a number?
No, I do not have a firm number.
Can you just confirm whether or not, I understand this is an open investigation, but in order to dispel conspiracy theories, have you guys been able to subpoena the shooter's Discord records, or has the FBI to your knowledge?
I believe that the FBI is working on those.
Okay. Is it factual to say that you have not ruled out that the shooter was working with other people or persons?
Again, the FBI is conducting the criminal investigation into
Can
the
you,
shooter.
at least in an effort to dispel conspiracy theories, can you confirm or deny that?
At this time, we do not have that there were any other people engaged.
So you believe he's acting alone?
I do.
Okay. Have you been made aware of multiple eyewitness reporting that there was a second shooter on a water tower?
I do not have any information related to any second shooter.
Okay, the reason I asked that is because according to testimony from multiple witnesses, they did report that. And again, to my understanding, there were over 40 sniper teams that were briefed by the Butler ESU. And I want to make sure that people are aware, if you're saying that there's not another shooter, that we are able to clear that information, because from this whole entire briefing, it doesn't seem like much information has been able to get out to the American people. So I'm trying to dispel rumors, as I'm sure you understand. Was it true that Secret Service was present at the Butler ESU briefing?
There was a briefing between the counter sniper teams that were working on the ground.
Was Secret Service present?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay, I want to read you a report from people that seem to be throwing you under the bus and stated that they were in attendance and that Secret Service was not in attendance at the security briefing, according to individuals with knowledge, to also include that the AGR building where the shooter Thomas Matthew Crooks was located was actually not a part of their security perimeter for that. So there was not Secret Service present. It seems as though that when you were asked earlier from Rep. Krishnamurthy about whether or not Secret Service was aware of a threat, you had said no, they were unaware of a threat. And yet, according to communications, again, from law enforcement that were in some of these group chats, they actually had reported that Secret Service was made aware of a threat at around 5:59 p.m. as a part of the command, including Secret Service, aware of messages and requests about information about the suspect's location. Can you please tell me if you have knowledge of that at all?
Again, I think we're conflating the difference between the term threat and suspicious.
But you guys did have knowledge at 5:59 p.m. according to those group chats, did you not?
Of a suspicious individual.
Okay. Chairman, in my opinion, according to some of the testimony today, I feel that you have perjured yourself in some instances. And so I'm going to ask for a full review of the transcripts by staff. And if you find that to be the case, I do ask that you bring perjury charges against the director. I will say this, it is very frustrating, and I've talked to my colleagues and we've said it to your face, that you have been up here basically stonewalling our ability to get the answers to the American people. And what I will also say is that every single member of Congress does not feel safe with you in charge. You have heard that, and I think that we are all sitting ducks with you in directing the Secret Service currently. But more importantly, it sends a message to our adversaries that we are not protected, and we are one of the strongest countries in the world, so you have essentially made us a less safe country because of it. As a result of that, I'm asking you to formally step down. I share my same opinions as my Democrat colleagues, and I also think that your efforts to bring forward a full investigation and report in 60 days is unacceptable, and as a result of that, I'm going to do everything in my legislative toolkit to ensure that that happens sooner rather than later, and I'm sure that you know that we brought a vote on inherent contempt against Garland for essentially blocking a congressional investigation, and I don't think that you should be any different. So I will say that I am just completely disgusted by your performance today, and I understand that you're probably in a position where you're being told not to testify, which is why we had to subpoena you. I think that goes back to Garland. But again, that is part of the flushing that we need to.
All right, so I have to run, but I need to play you guys a couple of Democrats. So everything I've played so far has been all Republicans and a little bit of one Democrat. The reason why I didn't play Democrats is because here's what the Democrats sounded like. I might play two of the Democrats. The Republicans, even the ones I didn't play, were similar to them, to the ones I did play. I just couldn't play them all. So I have a comment here on one of them. What the hell? Why can't I find it? Shit. Okay, this one. And my comment is, I think this was a crazy lady that snuck in to ask some questions.
Chair, now recognize Ms. Tlaib from Michigan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Director, for being here.
What a
when we hear the headline, a 20-year-old young man with access to an assault weapon commits an act of mass violence. I mean, we've heard this before, over and over again. But the unfortunate thing is that my residents don't get a committee hearing. We have not had one committee hearing about the over 260 mass shootings that we've had, killing hundreds of people, injuring hundreds, changing their lives forever. And don't get me wrong, to many of my colleagues, I mean, I watched, and even the pool of blood, the screams, it was horrific. But it made me think about the images I saw after mass shootings at schools, grocery stores. I mean, I think of Buffalo, New York at a supermarket where a racist gunman killed 10 shoppers with an AR. In El Paso, AK-47 style assault rifle killed 22. In Florida, in Parkland, Florida, 17 students and teachers murdered, again with an AR. In Pittsburgh, at a place of faith, Tree of Life Synagogue, 11 murdered. And don't get me about Newton, Connecticut, which still breaks my heart, 26 murdered, including 20 elementary school children. This year in Michigan, we've had, Mr. Chair, 2 mass shootings, 21 shot in Detroit, one of the most horrific shootings we've seen, 2 killed, at a splash pad in Rochester Hills, Michigan, 8 shot there, again, an assault weapon used. But the difference here is the former president gets a hearing in his attempt to assassinate, but our residents don't get a hearing about mass shootings, about gun violence in our country. You know, Mr. Chair, I ask this wholeheartedly. You know, they don't have Secret Service to protect them. They don't. I don't have these mass agencies protecting our kids in the schools or the supermarket, movie theaters, or going to a block party in Detroit. I don't have that. We don't have that. But I can't believe we're just going to focus on that and not the fact that we're hearing yet again in the headlines, a 20-year-old young man having access to an assault weapon, a weapon of war many of my veterans say they have to be trained to use. But he can get it, wasn't safely stored by the parent, grabbing that gun, and innocent lives were lost. Director, I know you got asked about this, and I think it's important, though, for us to hear this. But how difficult is your job when there's such easy access to assault weapons in the streets?
I think the job of a Secret Service agent and officer is incredibly difficult. I think the environment we deal with every day and the dynamics of the threat environment is incredibly difficult.
So this is what the Democrats sounded like. You see the difference?
She's not even addressing the topic.
No, not at all. Oh, and there's a better one. Here's another one. This one was even, this one was worse. It was worse than that.
Thank you. No one, absolutely no one should fear for their life at a political rally, in a classroom, in a faith house, or in their home. We must do something about political violence in all its forms and gun violence in all of its forms. Now, Director Cheatle, you have noted that numerous investigations are ongoing related to the Secret Service response and that we can expect a report in the next 60 days. With the election nearly 100 days away, that is an unacceptable timeline, and it makes people less safe. It also allows my colleagues across the aisle, Republicans, additional time to spread dangerous misinformation, which also puts people in harm's way. Some Republicans have exploited this moment to continue to attack progress towards racial justice and gender equity in America. Disappointing, but not surprising. I hesitate to repeat their racist and sexist tropes, but in summary, Republicans have wrongfully and shamefully stated that hiring women and people of color hindered the response to the shooting. Now, this is part and parcel of Republican strategy to constantly attack necessary diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts to undermine the contributions that women, people of color, the disability community, and others make to this country each and every day. And it is disgraceful. In the wake of gun violence and tragic loss of life, Republicans are ignoring solutions like gun safety reform and instead trotting out sexist tropes. Can't say I'm surprised. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record reporting from CNN titled "Right-Wing Media Figures Blame Women in Secret Service and DEI for Security Failure in Trump Shooting."
Without objection to order.
This article quotes members of Congress and others that plainly accuse DEI and the hiring of women as a liability for the Secret Service. Women have been an integral part of the agency since 1971 and are held to the same standards as their male counterparts. To use them as a scapegoat during a time of crisis is shameful and it is dangerously divisive. In fact, based on recent publicly available demographic data of the agency, the largest demographic groups among special agents are white and male. But to right-wing extremists, the truth doesn't matter. The lies they tell to advance their anti-diversity agenda, which is a key theme throughout Project 2025, will only make the American public less safe and more divided. And every day, Director Cheatle, that you fail to give us answers, they are given more oxygen to make their baseless claims that women and people of color are responsible for tragic events. And that is dangerous too. Thank you. And I yield my remaining time to Ranking Member Raskin.
Thank you to the distinguished.
They're not even asking questions. They're just doing monologue speeches. They have nothing to do with the topic.
Yeah, this is insanity. I don't know. This is why I normally don't watch this.
How are these people getting voted in?
Yeah, I can't answer that question.
Trust me, listening to the Democrats here was insanity. Like towards the end, it was only Republicans, but in the beginning, it was Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. So every other one was closer to her than to anything else I played prior to these two. I mean, these two were the extremes, but the rest were a lot closer to them than they were to the Republicans. Almost every Republican was asking great questions.
I mean, the fact that you had a Republican that knew the pitches on roofs was a good one. Like he, not to mention knows enough about ballistics and has the ability to test everything. You know, it's.
Here's one more. Here's one more. So this one's from New York. I didn't even play him at the very end.
Here now recognizes Mr. Langworthy from New York.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you bringing this hearing forward with subpoena. Director, yesterday I made the decision to get my car and drive to Butler, Pennsylvania in preparation for this moment and asking you questions about the events of the assassination attempt on President Trump's life. I've done several presidential events in prior in my career, and I wanted to see this site with my own two eyes because I don't believe the video footage tells the whole story or looking at things on a diagram. And I was absolutely appalled when I went to the site, when I saw the fact that I could have stood on the roof of that building, the AGR building, and hit that podium with a 9-iron, and I'm a lousy golfer. And the fact that that was not included in the perimeter is a complete dereliction of the duty of the U.S. Secret Service. I mean, there are very few rooftops that needed to be secured, and the fact that the Secret Service, as they were putting a site plan in place, did not think it was necessary to man those rooftops, you have completely walked away from your duties. You had one job, and that's to protect the future President of the United States, or to protect all of the other protectees. And President Trump is only here today by God's grace, because he had just something in him that made him turn his head just slightly, or we would be in a national period of mourning right now. And you have done nothing here today. I've rewritten these questions like 4 times during your hearing, and you haven't answered a damn one of them. You haven't given any information. You have hidden behind this FBI investigation, and I think you should be ashamed of yourself, because you have brought more shame to your agency than I think that the assassination attempt has at this point. This is literally the worst performance I have ever seen in front of a congressional hearing. You have offered no reason for this committee, this body, or the American people to trust you or the Secret Service today, and you should resign. You have said that you've put new security measures in place after the assassination attempt. Can you tell us what those are? Because the American people want to know that you're taking real corrective measures. But today you've pointed to an investigation. Investigation or not, you still have a job to do with a zero-fail mission. But so far there's been absolutely no accountability, and you've admitted that here today. Not one person's been suspended. Not one person's been put on a desk. Meanwhile, we've got the most contentious of elections in our nation's history, and protectees are in danger because of incompetent leadership. Not the agents. The agents piled on President Trump to protect his life. Those are heroes. But the administrators running your agency, they're not right now. They're not doing their jobs, and you certainly aren't doing. The most appalling part of Saturday's events is the countless opportunities that Secret Service had to stop Crooks before he even got on the roof. At 3 o'clock, Crooks raised suspicion by entering the rally with a rangefinder. At 5:45, a cop with a Beaver County Emergency Services unit saw Crooks eyeballing the roof at the AGR International Building. And then at 5:55, Secret Service was warned of a suspicious person and identifies Crooks as a threat. This was all before shots were fired 15 minutes later. Director, yes or no, did local law enforcement alert the Secret Service about Crooks' presence at the rally?
Yes, they did.
The shooter came to attention of law enforcement almost an hour before President Trump went on stage. Law enforcement alerted the Secret Service of the shooter. Over and over, you've said there's a difference between a suspicious individual and a threatening individual. Can you explain what the shooter needed to exemplify to be called a threat?
So I'm not clear as to what identified him as suspicious to the individuals who originally clarified him that way. For the Secret Service, for an individual to be determined to be a threat, that individual would have to be seen with a weapon or capable of doing some sort of harm to our protectees.
I mean, Director, an individual walking into a rally with a rangefinder, scoping out an unprotected rooftop, and he reportedly flew a drone over hours before. It sounds like a lot more than suspicious, especially at a presidential rally. Your operational lapses, your resource management, and poor judgment nearly resulted in the assassination of President Trump. I mean, the dereliction of duty here is just appalling. The fact that you haven't visited Butler is just maddening to me. You're not taking this job seriously. Many people here have called for your resignation. I've introduced a resolution here into this body that hopefully will get a vote this week calling on the president to fire you, ma'am. You have not done your job. You have put two black eyes on your agency, and you need to go. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentlemen, yield.
All right, I gotta go. I'm already super late. And so this is what I spent all my entire day doing today, taking notes, making timestamps, putting the timestamps on this video that YouTube has decided to hide, of course. But at least I had them, so I can pull them up. I'll throw these timestamps into my off-topic group chat. Maybe somebody else can repost it, edit it. I'm terrible speller. So I'm posting it in my off-topic group chat because I can't post them anywhere else. So there's your timestamps. If someone else wants to throw them on that video, I have the other timestamps on another document with all the Democrats. I mean, I'd add them in, I'd edit the comment, but no one's going to see it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Can you post the link to the video as well? Can you post that in your description?
The link to the video is already in the video description.
Okay. All right. I'll take care of that.
Okay. Anyway. All right. I gotta go, guys. This was fun, but like this is insane. She couldn't answer anything. Like I want to know how many. My number one question was how many casings were on. Did he fire? Like, how many shots did Crooks fire? That's my number one question.
Well, when you were going over the sounds of the rounds too, when you're talking about a 300 Win Mag round, as opposed to like that, it's a very deep sound compared to the crack of like, an AR-15. So the fact that, the shots all sound the same, and I'm with you. I want to know how many shell casings there are.
Right. Anyway, I gotta run. We're gonna talk about this again soon. Thanks everyone for watching.